must be our goal and our guide. And all that we strive for as a human family, dignity and hope, progress and prosperity, depends on peace. But peace depends on us.
Today, thousands and thousands of Africans and many countries in Africa have conflicts. Notably, from Libya, Cameroon, Nigeria, Biafra, and the Boko Haram, to Democratic Republic of Congo, of where we have seen a resurgence of the past military and conflicts coming back in that country. Hundreds and hundreds of people have been displaced, killed, maimed, tortured, raped, several of them dying of hunger, starvation, and other natural causes. The fighting seems not to be ending. For the sake of Libya, the Libyan recognized international government is under siege in Tripoli from another faction recognized by Egypt, France, UAE, and other countries. Whereas the one in Tripoli is recognized by the UN, it has been bombarded, has been strangulated, and many millions of Libyans are dying of hunger, lack of water. The water system has been cut off. The bombardment goes on. In Democratic Republic of Congo, we've seen more of active rebel activities returning to the region after some silence has been observed. When we come to Cameroon, we see millions and millions of Amazonians slaughtered. Yet, when you come to Biafra, again millions and hundreds of millions and millions are worried, displaced, tortured by the Buhari regime. Yet again in the north, we see Boko Haram killing, maiming, abducting, and burning down villages in the same Nigeria. When you cross over to Central African Republic, the same is the history that has littered Africa. While all these events are taking shape, Africa is silent. Africa is not making enough efforts to find a solution to what is causing the problems in Libya, in DRC, in Cameroon, in Nigeria, Biafra, and now you add in Khartoum, Sudan. As people die, the people of Africa have no answers, have no solutions. There is nothing to endear to bring an end to the conflicts that have killed Africa. We seem to be new ones manufactured, old ones reignited, encouragement coming from external powers. One power that has been seen in the shadows of all these conflicts, especially the one of Libya, that has escalated in the Saharan region of Africa, is France. When you come to Democratic Republic of Congo, the same country is in the shadows. The war can be seen is France. When you come to Cameroon, in the Amazonia, the one behind that has the key to bringing peace is France. Therefore, our question as Africans, why are we silent? Why are we not saying enough is enough of the wars? Thank you. Conflicts in Africa have become the daily occurrence. Daily occurrences in many countries, in the sense that almost every African country, apart from the few, there is tension. One wonders where this tension at times comes from. Some of it comes from elections, a manufactured election, a disputed election results. Some come from territory. Some are terrorist-based, like that of Somalia and Boko Haram. Some are because of regime change, purely sponsored by external forces. But 95 to 96% of conflicts in Africa occur through the sponsorship of external darker forces that would like to benefit out of the spoils of war. George Soros stands as one person who has always been and will always be and shall be until the end, a man who sponsors any type of chaos, who does not follow which type of chaos he is sponsoring, as long as it is chaos that can topple a person he hates in Africa. Many African countries are undergoing this pressure, this tension, especially those that are conducting elections and whose timetable for elections seem to be coming in the near future. As a result of that, Africa stands warned, and Africa must stand on alert about the external forces that want to dismember this continent and create heavens of war, create insecurity, create mirage peace that Africans have fought after 66 years of gaining political independence. It is therefore my submission that most African countries, if they don't look at what George Soros is doing, we might have a shocker one morning, one by one African country being pushed out and the leaders being pushed out of power. The events, therefore, in South Africa, as proved from these detailed undercover operations, they prove that George Soros indeed has a say in South African politics. And therefore, we want to urge Africans and African heads of state and their military and intelligence systems to be careful and watch on the amount of money that is being pumped into their economies, because some of the money could be George Soros money that will end up to bring public disorder in most of the African countries. Thank you very much, viewers. I want to call upon the people of Abazonia today, wherever you are in the diaspora in Abazonia itself, that in a struggle you are bound to have divisions. But divisions should not divert you from the main focus, the main challenge. We have struggled to expose the happenings, the human rights abuses in Abazonia. The army has killed hundreds and hundreds of thousands, burnt houses of people, internet was cut off, schools were closed, dispensaries, hospitals were burnt down. Abazonians should not be intimidated by Paul Robia. It is not upon the leaders of Abazonia, because I am not from Abazonia, but I've played a pivotal role in making sure that I loud out the voices, I put out the call, I call upon AU, EU, United Nations, Human Rights Watch, Amnesty International. Many of them have listened to some of the things that I say here, and they have come at last. America, United States of America, is slowly moving towards giving the Abazonian people the dignity they deserve. I therefore call upon the leaders and the leadership of the Abazonian people to unite for a purpose. The unity of purpose is paramount, as opposed to disunity, which has nothing but only produces ego that we have seen in South Sudan. What has killed South Sudan is not because they don't have the money, the minerals, the resources. Is ego between Riek Machar and Salva Kiir. We would not like to see that ego come to the people of Abazonia, the leadership of Abazonia. I call upon Samuel Sako, Akanga, Miran, and Eko to unite and talk with one voice on international scene that will bring about the peace, the tranquility that you yearn for since 1961, when the resolution 1608 was abandoned by the United Nations General Assembly and Abazonia was annexed by the Cameroon government by then. I call upon you, my brothers, to pick up the unity call and free your people without disintegration. Thank you. Good evening, viewers. Welcome to Punchline Africa TV, broadcasting all the way from Nairobi, the Republic of Kenya. Thank you very much for watching us. It is a good day in Nairobi. Elsewhere in Africa, thank you very much. Those watching us live, we want to thank you very much for your patronage, and continue watching us, the only television station in Africa that tells the truth, that says what it is, and delivers what it is. We say it without fear or favor on any side of the divide. Wherever you are in Africa, thank you. And in the diaspora, in Europe, in America, in the south of the Pacific Ocean, south under or down under, we call it that way. All of you, you must be waking up very early in the morning. Thank you very much for your patronage. Those in Somalia, in Asmara, in Egypt, Cairo, in Abidjan, in Cote d'Ivoire, Burkina Faso. Thank you very much. Those in Central African Republic, Democratic Republic of Congo. This is a diplomatic leaks. This show comes specifically on Tuesday at 8 p.m. We specialize on leaks. We specialize behind the scenes of what diplomats say. They can't say it. They have it. It chokes them. For us, we are activists, international African activists. We bring it out as it is. In the studio with me today to bring it out, and the topic is very familiar topic, South Sudan. Let her try is Miriam Ogutu, my co-host. Try the microphone, please. Over to you.
All right, indeed. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you're watching us across the globe. You know, our viewers are spread all over the world, so thank you so much for finding time and tuning in. And of course, today we had this conversation earlier during the morning show, and we decided, you know what, perhaps we cannot exhaust it. Let us have another show at 8 p.m. on the same topic, and so that we're able to cover this and see what's really going on in South Sudan, and will the peace hold in South Sudan. And the latest, as we know, is that necessitated this conversation. The United States has recalled its ambassador to South Sudan. They're saying they're going to look at the relationship with South Sudan as a country, and so this is something that should worry South Sudan. And of course, as we will be through the show, we'll talk about it. And of course, the leadership of South Sudan has, of course, they have responded to this message, which we will look at in the course of this conversation. So keep talking to us and engage with us and write to us. Let us know the questions that you have and your comments, and we will continue engaging throughout this show. And thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you very much, viewers, wherever you are. The topic is...
Will peace hold in South Sudan?
Will the peace hold in South Sudan? Thank you very much. I had not seen the bottom bar of my iPad. Will the peace hold? Is there peace, first of all? Let me make opening remarks before you interrogate me. But let me not cut the lady. Go ahead.
It's okay.
Say it.
Just make the introduction.
Is there peace, first of all?
I think there's this pretense peace. There's not peace that really we can talk about. They want to believe there's peace in South Sudan. If there was peace, we would not be seeing all these South Sudanese across the world who long to go back to their country being outside here. There's no peace in South Sudan enough to encourage them to go back to the country. So there's no peace in South Sudan.
Thank you very much. And here we are. The government of the United States of America yesterday recalled its ambassador from South Sudan. Any diplomat who knows what recalling is means there is very serious matter to be discussed. They recalled the ambassador from Juba to return for consultations. Whether he will come back depends on what type of consultation he was called for. The government of South Sudan again has urged the international community to give it more time to sort out and achieve peace. The government of the United States of America Department has echoed a tweet on Monday by Secretary of State Mike Pompeo as the United States signals the frustration with the failure of South Sudan's rivals to meet and conclude an agreement. South Sudan President Salva Kiir and his opposition leader, Dr. Riek Machar, comrade, both of them are my great friends. They have faced a November 12th deadline, but it passed. They were called in Kampala by His Excellency President Museveni to iron out their differences. Kenya and Uganda have played a key role in the stabilization of both the states. Kenya especially has given diplomatic, roots, has brought in, has taken the bill through the taxpayers' money in this country to show the peace process at the beginning and up to now. President Uhuru Kenyatta has been at the forefront in making sure that peace returns in South Sudan. President Uhuru Kenyatta also has put his foreign ministers on the run in IGAD, in AU, in UN, in every conference to make sure that there is peace in South Sudan. We want to commend the countries that have played a pivotal role in bringing peace in South Sudan. But the panel of the United Nations Security Council stated that there is nothing like that on the ground. They seem to be very frustrated that there is a problem and the postponement goes on, and they see even in the 100 days, there might not be peace. South Sudan plunged itself in 2013 in a war that has lasted up to today. South Sudan is a small country, that a huge country in territory with a very little population, covering some parts that are inhabitable, with the terrain being very rough, that it is equivalent to walking on towards hell than living in that country under those terrible conditions, because the roads are not passable. There are no airports. The airports that are there are few. And the transport, the food, the production, there are no factories. Factories were just beginning to mushroom. South Sudan had become a magnet of the East and the Central African trading, that all essential goods, products that were made in Kenya found themselves in a market in South Sudan. The East African region has therefore lost what we call a very good buying partner that buys Kenyan goods, Ugandan goods, and other countries that were trading with South Sudan. The war has left millions and millions devastated, without food. Humanitarian catastrophe continues to occur. Killings continue to take place. Both armies are restricted at the moment, but you have here and there people not agreeing. More rebel armies are mushrooming, are opening up. This is the country we are talking about today. This is the country we are talking about. This is the country where children have never gone to school since 2013. 6 years down the road, most of the younger generation has not seen school, has never gone to school. That is South Sudan. Over 384,000 people died as a result of the brutal war, where armies from different parts of the region entered and massacred the people. To me, I think the Americans know something that we don't know. But I am telling you, from the records that I have picked, we have not lost. We are not in a good shape at all. Both leaders should work out quickly, walk towards the dining table, sign the agreement, come into Sudan, take however hard it is, let them take a step forward. Let Juba take one step forward. Let Riek Machar take a step forward. Otherwise, I don't think they will escape the United Nations tribunal. That one country in Europe has already drafted documents waiting to present to the United Nations Security Council.
Yes, indeed. And of course, the recalling of South Sudan, of the U.S. ambassador to South Sudan on Monday, of course, is follows, that report that Dr. Matanga just mentioned a while ago that was presented to the United Nations Security Council about South Sudan. And in the morning here, we really did not understand why a country like Kenya or Uganda, which have been very supportive towards the country of South Sudan, were being mentioned in terms of contributing to the dangerous stalemate in South Sudan. That is what the panel of experts were saying. So apparently, Kenya's authorities, that is according to the report, failed to request an exemption to the United Nations travel ban in the case of Gabriel Jock Riek, also included in the sanctions list for actions that have extended the conflict in South Sudan. And Gabriel Jock Riek participated in East African Community military games. So apparently, before this person was supposed to participate in these military games in Nairobi, Kenya should have written to the United Nations Security Council to ask for permission for him to be allowed to participate. But that Kenya failed to do that. So that is where Kenya is faulted, actually, because in the morning we were wondering, what is it? Because all we know is Kenya has been very supportive towards the peace process in South Sudan, and that among other issues, really. But also we've seen Ethiopia also being criticized along with Kenya for failing to use the leadership roles in the Intergovernmental Authority on Development, that is IGAD, to exert a regional leverage on South Sudan's antagonists. And even in the morning here, we're having that conversation. What much can Kenya do, or to what extent can Ethiopia push if the leadership inside of South Sudan have not willed within themselves to find peace in that country, in their country?
But who is arming the rebels? That's another question. Who's supplying arms to the rebels? That is those are questions. The United States of America should also come out clear and tell us whether they favor one side of this conflict. Because what I can see from the hallmarks, there is one side of the conflict that is favored by the United States of America. For them to pass a judgment on Kenya right now is just useless. You see, passing judgment on Kenya has two dimensions. One of the dimensions is very clear, is this. They have seen Kenya applying for United Nations Security Council slot. And they want to pass judgment to say Kenya cannot help peace in the region. That's it. This report is meant to shield Djibouti. It is very simple. Anybody who has studied this subject, Miriam will tell you that that's what they are aiming at. Why does this report come now? It is like making Wako a very bad person when he's going to deliver a BBI report. It comes, they are strategically, doing things for Djibouti, bidding for Djibouti, because the United States of America has a naval base in Djibouti, France has a naval base in Djibouti, and Russia and other countries, they are there. Several superpowers, permanent members of the Security Council, and some other 7 countries in Europe, powerful, have naval bases around Djibouti. So what they are doing right now is to color the whole thing that Kenya is not able to solve the problem. If you tie this with what the Djibouti president is saying, that when they launch their bid for the United Nations next week in New York, what they are going to do is very simple. They are going to tell the world that Kenya is not able to resolve conflicts. They are using the Somalia maritime dispute to counter and decampaign Kenya. So it is a systematic, the Kenyan diplomats watching this, wherever they are, it is for free information I'm giving you. This is the backline. We do the backline of diplomatic leaks. Therefore, we pick those leaks that leak. And that is the way that is leaking right now, that there is animosity in the region, animosity created by the same members of the Security Council, animosity created by France. Within the region, France is hovering around. It is taking shape in Khartoum. It wants to muzzle the Khartoum government into submission of surrendering Mr. Ali Bashir to the ICC. The French authorities are pushing for the new administration in Khartoum to deliver Ali Bashir in the ICC. These are some of the things that we must actually get to know as people, as Africans. So when you sit down and look at whether the peace in South Sudan will hold or not, will this peace hold in South Sudan? My answers are God will just come to hold it.
To hold it. And also, I think in this case, I think for Kenya, from this report, I think Kenya is being used as a scapegoat because the issues that these two leaders raised as to why they're not able to meet the 12th November deadline has nothing to do with Kenya, Uganda, or Burundi, or any other country that has been mentioned, because they needed to iron out their security and governance structures, which they have to do themselves. What does that have to do with Kenya? How is Kenya holding South Sudan from achieving these things? So they themselves are not able to, deliver on these issues. So I think in this case, they're just trying to use Kenya as a scapegoat into where they want to go and pile the excuses as to why, and excuse these two leaders who should be held accountable. Why are they not finding these two people accountable? And from this very report, doctors, maybe quite interesting, something I was reading when I was going through that report. The report indicates that the government of Salva Kiir, in particularly, has benefited from the inconsistent approach of the region. So he's happy the way IGAD has been handling this matter because he gets to benefit and get away with a lot of things that are happening in South Sudan.
Can you also, I think that one can be put squarely on IGAD. Because if you look at the structure of the way the peace process was structured, it doesn't bring peace at all. I'm telling you. Doesn't bring peace at all. The structure of the peace process itself, without accountability, and you are running for political expedience, you are increasing the number of vice president. Anybody who wants to go to the bush, increase him as a vice president. So that type of mentality of increasing the political, space, while accountability remains hollow, is what has let down the IGAD negotiators and the negotiators in this current peace process.
And because these leaders are not being held accountable, they get away with things that they should not be getting away with. They should be held accountable, number one, for being the custodians of this peace deal. And they are the people who are supposed to be making sure this thing is implemented, but they refuse to do that. And so when you talk about accountability, let's start with these two people, President Salva Kiir and Deputy Riek Machar.
The whole thing, as you say rightly, Miriam, it is a very serious matter. And we can see there are so many people agreeing with us from Sudan. Nyalek, Nadiek, Dak Dop says, yes, I'm right. Because, look, you cannot structure a peace agreement, a peace negotiation, the way IGAD is structured in this peace negotiation. From day one, the peace process was supposed to collapse. 3 days after the war erupted in South Sudan, I wrote a document, and I keep on telling people, I want Sudanese to go to my website, www.panafricanforumltd.com. Look for the article by name, and I think production team will pick it and bring it here. Look for the article by name, Breaking the Cycle of Violence in South Sudan. I recommended, and I wrote as an expert on conflict, I said, if you want peace in South Sudan, first, let the UN give us an envoy. Special envoy. In fact, at that time, I suggested Chisano. I said, you need a special envoy mandated first to have authority to shoot. If one of the parties does not listen to what we do, you threaten them with sanctions or shoot. That UN envoy must have those powers. We must change the peacekeeping force in South Sudan to fighting force, because there is no peace to keep. Is there? There is no peace to keep. Is it there? You can only keep peace in Juba, but the rest of the areas, there is no peace to keep. I suggested that UN gives a full commitment of an envoy, not part-time, not giving money to Sijui IGAD or what, Botswana president. That was waste of time. A civilian cannot manage these guys. I said, bring a military background guy. And I even suggested, don't bring Obasanjo, because Obasanjo is a traitor. He will betray either Riek or Salva Kiir. I'm always very honest when it comes to this. And I speak the truth, and that is what I do. And Mr. Haji Mohammed, if you don't have direction, also suggest to us where Somalia is going. So we shall not deal with stupidity now.
Let's just ignore
but
more.
Let's go on. That is the breaking circles of violence in South Sudan. That's the document I wrote in black and white. In my own English, it was published. It has been here. I handed it over to the foreign ministers of IGAD, that if you want peace in that region, you need that document. You need what General Garanga said, basics. The basic way, basics. What are the basics of bringing peace in South Sudan? The process must be people-centered, not power-centered. People-centered will include accountability. We have to start accounting. The UN and the IGAD are finding themselves at a cul-de-sac simply because they did not start with accountability. You get the point? They have reached somewhere. They have been pleasing rebels. They have been pleasing the government.
Too much.
They have been pleasing the rebels.
Too much.
They have allowed the rebels to walk and eat mutton and goat everywhere.
Pope is kissing their feet.
Yes. The Pope, the God, has even kissed their feet.
Like, get out of
because
here.
Pope talks to God every day. Kissed their feet. These gentlemen here are killing people. People are in the forest. People are not eating. People are not going to school. The whole generation of 6 years have not gone to school. They are busy calling themselves warlord and the president. No. Africa should refuse. Enough is enough. If these 100 days go down, Dr. Riek Machar will visit you in Arusha. The UN tribunal is being prepared. And I've told Dr. Riek Machar, he's my friend. I've told someone to tell him. I have even told him the country that has prepared the document. Don't blame me that I never told you as an African. The 100 days now, you are bringing Kenya into problems. You are bringing Uganda into problems.
Yes, indeed. And the United Nations should stop with these sideshows. What are they doing? Because they're not really facing the problem head on. They're just around here skating over matters instead of addressing what needs to be addressed in South Sudan. And now they've been given from the government until the 100 days ends on the 22nd of February. So far, even after the extension, what update have this leadership of South Sudan been giving on how much progress they're making? Or they're waiting until the last minute and then they'll come out 2 weeks towards the deadline and ask for more time. I mean, it's ridiculous. And I think, as you say, the whole world now, starting from IGAD, countries who are now being blamed from being very, stepping aside, and they've not been really in an active role in helping South Sudan. Right now, we need to hold South Sudan accountable, starting from the leadership, the president, Riek Machar, and the rest of the stakeholders that are involved in this ridiculousness.
Yes, because if Kenya, for example, if Kenya does not start putting embargo, it has to put embargo on some people.
Yes.
You can't travel in and out. And then you are not making a peace process. No, the time has come for an embargo, a serious punitive sanctions against these guys. Because you find them in a hotel here.
You're saying hotels? They own the best houses here in Nairobi.
Yes, you find them. People are dying in the bushes. Mm-hmm. And they are busy drinking several bottles of wine. They can finish a wine refinery from Italy. We cannot accept this. Time has come for now for people of the world to stand up. Because when you look at the pictures of those children suffering, those children running without food, the mothers being raped, mutilated, eaten, animals resting on them. What do you think?
I think that that's a very sad state of affairs, and I don't know why even the rest of African countries are even. You look at these photos and you think it's even something to share about and to pass on, and to I like it's just bad in the on human rights ground. And so I don't know when these leaders of South Sudan, because me squarely I'll now just blame the president and Mr. Machar and the rest of them, because now if you start blaming other countries who whatever it is that they're being accused, when you go through that report, really has nothing to do with what is really going on in South Sudan. These are just sideshows, as much as perhaps one or two individuals were allowed to have a bank account, I don't know, in Kenya, the other one was allowed to fly, I don't know to where, but that is not the matter. What is the question here? This question here is the leadership of South Sudan lack the will to form, to make sure that they have peace in their own country. And in this report here, we see that President Salva Kiir has been found to be enjoying this chaos that is going on in South Sudan. So the president is actually benefiting from this chaos.
Of course.
No wonder.
Of course. That's why the war cannot end. That's why the war cannot end. Surprisingly, both of these gentlemen ended the war in northern Uganda.
Very interestingly.
Yes.
So they have the skills.
They have Dr. Yak Machar.
They all learned it and very smart.
Yes, Dr. Yak Machar was the chief mediator. Mm-hmm. President Salva Kiir could come in our meetings and tell us to do it quickly, or he takes us out of Sudan, of South Sudan.
So in that regard, he was very principled.
Yes.
And he wanted to follow through with the peace.
Yes, and we fell through. Mm-hmm. Some of us had never traveled to Kampala to meet that Yoweri Gakuta Museveni. We hadn't. We had refused. Mm-hmm. But Riek Machar put us on a plane to go by force. He said, we have to go to Kampala. Chisano said, let's arrange. Riek said, no, we go. We have to go there with these guys. Mm-hmm. We went. The peace process, look, peace has returned because Dr. Riek Machar worked so hard. Salva Kiir gave us support. Uganda is peaceful today. Mm-hmm. There is no more gun for over 11 years. And I will not talk about the other thing because I'm not going to sing all the time. Mm-hmm. There is no gun and there will be no gun. That's it. The mandate of which we are given to bring northern Uganda to a peaceful region was done. What happens in Central African Republic is not our mandate, was not our mandate. It is an international obligation to look for the war criminals that they have indicted. We didn't have the police, we don't have the money, we don't have the handcuffs to arrest them. Even if you met them, where do you take them? So that is it. So looking at all this, the only journey that we have.
The Security Council.
Yes.
Indeed, and we thank you so much, our viewers, for engaging with us. Sorry, when it comes to South Sudan, we can get a bit charged sometimes, but it's for the better cause of making sure that, we air our voices, because perhaps you don't have the platform to do it, so we will do it on your behalf. So keep writing to us. And Mayen Kuot is saying, yes, Dr. Matsanga, peace will not hold because Mr. Kiir does not have the will to implement the peace. We have released a POW. I don't know if you could write it in full for me yet. He did not want to unified army, and there's a lot of tasks to be done. Yes, so one of the major contentious issues is unifying the army, but have they worked on a modality to bring these people together? A lot of these people who are serving in South Sudan army have not even gotten the real military training. That's why they get to be part of these atrocities that are happening in South Sudan. So before you even bring them together, should there be like a structural way, like perhaps bring people who have the capacity to train them and just to perhaps even change even their mentalities and make sure that when you're brought together, you're not allied to this side of the government or this side of the government. You are working for the country of South Sudan, which is something they're lacking because they pledge allegiance to the different leaders in South Sudan.
That question, almost everybody in South Sudan is militarized. Mm-hmm.
But not in the right way.
No.
Yes. In the militia way.
Some people entered as militia.
Yes.
Some children were recruited. Child soldiers were recruited. There are so many violations that are taking place, that have taken place. But that aside, we should also trace back the history of why this process collapsed. The first process collapsed because the army, the IGAD brought 2 armies.
The same IGAD?
Yes. You can't bring Riek Machar army and then bring another one, then put them facing each other. There was no buffer zone.
You're preparing a battleground.
Yes, you needed only a whistle. That's why Riek had to escape for his life. He was almost going to be killed. He walked 1,000 miles. I know the distance he walked from Juba up to Congo because I've walked it before. I've traveled it before. So these are some of the things that everybody is worried about. Very worried that the peace process might not hold. Time is running out. The 100 days are running out.
February is just here.
Yes.
When they're giving up to November,
we don't see any progress.
It's a long time, but
we see now
they're not even saying anything.
Yes.
Toot Quich Lodge, you're saying for President Kiir working with Dr. Riek Machar in same government is a red line. Therefore, 100 days extension is just a waste of time. Miriam Lele, you're there watching. Thank you so much. Nyaleo Dak, I do hope you're saying you're right, Doctor. Manas Biel, you're saying true. Mia Kwach Mijak, you're saying peace is going to prevail in South Sudan. The only problem is South Sudan is that government did not put the interest of America by giving the Americans all the oil's contracts with which the Chinese government is the one operating now in oil sectors in South Sudan. So we also have now the oil factor. Could that be the reason why they have recalled the ambassador to South Sudan and the deadline, the 12th November deadline, is just a camouflage of something that is perhaps much deeper than just America being frustrated with the efforts of these leaders bringing peace in South Sudan?
Thank you very much. You said it all, and they have earmarked. The panel says it has identified accounts in unnamed Kenyan bank related to Malek Reuben Riak Rego, a former South Sudanese senior security official accused of overseeing the killings of civilians. It has also Paul Malong Anwar, another individual subject to the United Nations ban. Travel ban was allowed to fly from Nairobi to South Africa in July on Kenya Airways flight. The panel notes, Malong, a former chief of staff of the South Sudan Army, returned from South Africa to Nairobi later in July on Kenya Airways flight, the report says. But this report...
And that is all good.
Why?
But what does that have to do with the lack of meeting the deadline on 12th of November? That is what I want to know, as much as these are other things that are happening. But that is not the main issue. The main issue is that what happened to the deadline and what is happening now that will, to this 100 days until February 22nd. Why is it that you're not getting any information from the government of South Sudan on the progress? I think this is just a sideshow, and this should not distract the people from really looking at what's really going on in South Sudan, as much as those issues could hold water. But that is not the issue, because I don't think any of that has anything to do with these people not meeting the deadline that they were given.
I think I still believe I agree with you that United States of America has a lot to do. It should not just call the ambassador and disappear. They have a lot to do.
Did you hear what one of our viewers there said, that the United States, perhaps because South Sudan refused to give it the oil that it wanted, because now it has contracted Chinese companies to come and do all that. So perhaps the US is reiterating with recalling the ambassador. So this, perhaps the timing, I don't know, but there could be more than just not the deadline. Maybe something quite different from the peace process. I think.
It is actually very, very different. And when you look at Michael KW, what he has said, so what is Moussa Faki doing? The AU envoy, the AU chairperson is just useless guy. Come on, the youth of Africa, wake up now and let us go remove this criminal Moussa Faki.
I don't know where you're going to remove him from. Addis Ababa.
I don't know
Chad.
where you are. No, he's from Chad.
Or from French. Sometimes he goes there to relax over there.
He's watching.
Where are you going to get Mr.
He has watched
Mr.
these events. Remember,
yes,
the African Union under Mrs. Zuma sent an envoy. Obasanjo was in charge of investigating human rights abuses. And I'm telling you, that report was put on hold. But if that report was released as it is, I don't think there would be, the war would have ended. But people just, Africa, we do our things the way we do them, we kill ourselves, then later on we regret. This is it. That's the situation that we see in South Sudan.
And of course, today in an interview with the East African, that is the Kenyan newspaper, allied to the Daily Nation newspaper today, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation spokesperson Mawien McCall described the withdrawal as a diplomatic concern to the government of South Sudan. So I'll just quote what he said. I'll just pick the quote directly from what he said. He says, "We are urging the United States to reconsider the withdrawal. We are appealing to them to support the peace process. The country still needs their support because we are here to implement the 100 days, and we are hopeful that these 100 days will be final, and we will be able to establish the unity government," in quotes. But when South Sudan, they're coming out and saying they need help, what kind of help could they? Do they want the world to?
They need help in terms of resources, resources to police the peace agreement. That one is needed. You need soldiers to keep a neutral force to keep the peace agreement, a peacekeeping force that will separate the two armies. Remember, we are talking about not 10,000 people. I mean, people have 150,000 men and arms. When the other day when I saw Riak saying we have almost 180,000 troops on the ground, they need a very neutral, serious force. This can only be done by UN. IGAD cannot manage. We don't have the money. They don't have the money. 2, South Sudan peace process is being done without a funder. IGAD itself has no money, no backup in terms of logistics. It doesn't have the money that it requires to hold accountability and see that they are monitoring, a peace monitoring team or political monitoring or human rights monitoring team. They need to appeal to other international agencies like St. Gidio in the Vatican. The Uganda peace process was successful because international donor organizations came in and gave money to the peace process. Where governments could not do the work, they supplemented by paying for certain planes, food. These things are needed in the peace process, but I don't see these things at all. South Sudan, the oil money has disappeared. All the money has been eaten.
And perhaps that is how other member states in IGAD are feeling. Come on, now you need to account for that, at least the little revenue, not very little, that you're getting from whatever it is that the country is getting the revenue from. If you cannot even account for that, and even President Salva Kiir earlier this year came out and said, you know what, he is regretting that all the resources the country has been accruing and getting the revenue, it has been directed in the wrong direction, that is to fund the war between him and Riek Machar. So now if you get the resources and you cannot prioritize in how it's going to help your citizens, but you want Uganda, you want Kenya, you want Tanzania, you want these other countries to sacrifice the developmental money they're supposed to be pouring into their own countries, and they're having their own challenges, to sacrifice that and to bring to your country, and you're not even going to show some will of wanting, we cannot want that peace more than they do. They should want it first, Doctor. So I think as much as IGAD and other players could be very, not perhaps very supportive, I think a lot of players have done the best they could so far. So for them to even continue further, I think they're feeling, but what do they have to show for this much help they have been receiving from the different organizations across the world? What do they have to show for?
No, yesterday, South Sudan opened an electricity supply.
I saw it
system
over the weekend, I think.
If there was no war, by now South Sudan, Juba would be the booming city. the city near the River Nile.
And it should.
That you can go and sit and relax.
With all that resources.
Instead of going to Mombasa, you only need to go near River Nile. Because the weather is almost the same. The water is flowing, very nice water from Lake Victoria. You see it, you can touch it. So many good hotels had grown along River Nile. This was a city that was booming. In 2005, 2006, 2007, 2008, when we were in Juba, we were staying in tents. Now good hotels have sprung up. We are staying in the tents. We headed to mold this economy of South Sudan to come where it is.
They had started off very well.
Yes.
And the whole world was thrilled about coming in and helping
People
and investing in
wanted to
South
help.
Sudan. And then look what happened.
Yes, leaders have ego. The last point that I want to make here on Sudan is to appeal to my elders. Both of them are older than me, and I respect them. They should respect others also. I appeal to them. Dr. Riek Machar especially, you are my friend, and you are a great person. But do one thing, please. Just adhere to this one. Don't fail me. Don't fail me. I don't want to come to Arusha when the tribunal is set. Your Excellency, Dr. Riek Salva Kiir, General Salva Kiir, for the last time, you have tried your level best. We also call upon the international community not to leave South Sudan, not to leave him, because he might need help. Truly, he needs help. He needs very serious help. You know, he needs help in terms of money. There is no money. So we cannot go on condemning them. If the money is gone, it's gone. The United States of America, Britain, France, Germany, and other countries pump in money. If this war was in Europe, if this war was in Central Europe, what would happen? They would run with jet fighters to stop it. Why is it that they are not running in our place? Why? Why not in Africa?
The leadership is benefiting from the chaos. So you cannot come and help out because they don't seem to be willing to receive that.
If this war was in Europe, just a small war in Europe, in Syria, in the Middle East.
And this is not even a small war.
It's not a small war.
Close to 400,000 people.
Yeah, but here you are. They have not come to help at all. They are only now pulling out diplomats and leaving the government to sink more. And leave the tribes to go the Rwanda way. If you leave the tribes in South Sudan, they will turn guns on each other. They will. They will turn heavy guns. They will wipe out both communities. Will go to River Nile. Maybe bodies will be filling. They will fill River Nile. We should not leave it. The international community should not leave. And the international community should not start antagonizing Kenya and antagonizing Uganda. They should not antagonize the countries surrounding them. Because these countries could decide to play a blind eye and all these things breaks hell. They should not.
And I hope that that doesn't happen. I think Kenya has a lot of interest in the stability of South Sudan because we carry a big burden of having South Sudan refugees in the country, same as Uganda and other countries. So I think it's in the best interest of Kenya that South Sudan stabilizes. So I'm hoping that it will not come to a point where they will neglect being part of this peace process, even regardless of what is being said. But also, I don't know. Yes, the international community should come in and continue helping, but as much as they will be coming in and helping, we need accountability. And accountability is starting from this leadership, Doctor. They should not escape. The reason because they've been doing things with impunity and getting away and asking for these extensions and getting is because we have been massaging their egos. Pope has been kissing their feet. They've just been, we're just trying to make life easier for them. And what they forget is life is not easier for the South Sudanese who are across the world, South Sudanese who are living in the refugee camps, South Sudanese who are longing to come back home. So as much as help should be given, and I believe, and I admit, help should be given to South Sudan as a country and the leadership there, but also these people should be held accountable.
The people can be held accountable. But how long will you hold them without the ground shifting?
Like what happened now?
Yes.
And the U.S. has been threatening with
to
sanctions.
Withdraw.
With
You are
sanctions.
going to destroy the whole ground. That's first of all. The method goes back to what I told you. The UN has not been serious on South Sudan. That's my indictment. That is my indictment. I'm sorry. Anybody else can disagree. I'm not bothered. But the United Nations, and especially the permanent members of the United Nations, have not been forceful on South Sudan. Peace would have come. For them to have left IGAD to hang around and moan every day, we don't have money, we don't have money, we don't have money. It's very shameful.
It's quite shameful and dehumanizing for people who have a lot.
And also, African Union has a case to answer in the eyes of Africans.
That is very true.
It has a case to answer, and that must be tabled. Why is it pushing slowly? Why is it? And for example, the United States has got a very big problem. They have details on someone. Then they come to threaten Kenya that he left on a plane number, flight number this. Why didn't you notify the Kenya government that that man is leaving, he's there, he should not leave? You wait, and even, you know what the Americans do? They even put a man on the plane to fly with this man to that area, then return with him. Even go and book a same hotel. That's why it's what CIA does.
And they're saying Kenya should have sought for permission for that guy to be allowed.
How can Kenya seek permission when it does Kenya every day at this airport stand to look for only Sudani? Let the embassy write to the Foreign Affairs Ministry, say there is a man here with this picture, we know him. He's not supposed. The UN is here, habitat. Up here, the UNEP headquarters are here. Some of these things, reports generate from this place in Girigi. They are here. They are the ones who write these reports. Why can't they just send a note to Dr. Monica Juma, to Juma Monica, or Monica Juma, and say, Madam, there is a problem there. There is a dirty money from Sudan. Now this one is blacklisting, blackmailing. They are now supporting Djibouti. I swear you'll see.
But also when you see things like this, because I think this is a matter that they should have raised with the Kenyan government. I don't know if it should be, do they want the Kenyan government? Did they raise their concerns with the Kenyan government before this formed a report to be tabled at the United Nations Security Council? But also from what you can see, this is just, I think, a pre-preparation of something, maybe a bigger report or a bigger action or something that will happen on South Sudan. And so this is just a preview, or, they're just building their case very slowly by slowly. And so perhaps they should look out to what is really happening, the leadership of South Sudan.
Madam Miriam, you are right. The case is built already.
Slowly by slowly.
I have told you there is a country that has drafted a resolution. And with this panel, this country is going to table the resolution very soon to the Security Council to say, aware of this, very cognizant of this, noting the deteriorating situation, aware that the two rebel groups have been given, the government and the rebels have failed. This is what we believe should be done. One, a hybrid tribunal is set. And that's it. We shall not get it out. Up today, Rwanda tribunal is working.
Because they're still solving.
Only that the staff have been taken away. Up today, Sierra Leone tribunal is working. Sebutinde and other people were there.
And they formed another one, I think, from Yaya Jammeh.
Yes. Tribunals can be formed.
To look in.
And let's not go that route. Jermaine, the two gentlemen Please avoid that. I am tired of going to ICC to shout. I've shouted enough for Kenyans. I've shouted enough for Libya. I've shouted enough for Thomas Rubanga. I shouted enough for Bemba. I shouted enough for Babugo. I stood by several people. I've stood in the way. I've said there is something wrong with the ICC. Please help me. Don't go that route. Dr. Riek Machar and the General Salva Kiir. Thank you very much. Any news that are coming out of Somalia?
Not so much. I was not able to get any.
I have some news for Somalia. The Attorney General of Somalia was sacked yesterday. A moderate man was sacked yesterday, and a radical was returned to man the place of a very good friend who knows law. Yesterday he lost his job because he could not agree with the thieving prime minister called Hassan Harie and others and Faramijo.
And that will not be the first Attorney General they're sacking. Those
No.
That lady that I can't
The lady was a lawyer, a solicitor, Muna.
No, there's another one.
There's another one they sacked
the first woman who was Attorney General.
So things are not rosy. First of all, for people who don't know about the conflict, the judge in the tribunal, in ICJ, will not be on the trial when Kenya's case resumes in June next year. I dismantled that. We dismantled it. I want to thank the people who helped us, helped me especially on this bed and breakfast journey, where we sat in hours in the morning to write petitions that were circulated worldwide. Mr. Justice Yusuf Abdalaki Yusuf will retire. God help him. Let him go and enjoy his money in Turkey or Qatar, where he has houses, or Brussels. So when you find a judge has 6 houses around the world, how does he pay rent? Our ground rates. It's very interesting. Back in Nairobi, the BBI today was handed over to President Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta. Yes, thank you very much, Mo Mohammed Filters. I am Scorpio. No, octopus. I am octopus. Several
tentacles.
Thank you very much. Today, back in Kenya, the redemption strategy document of Building Bridges Initiative was handed over to President Uhuru Kenyatta. I don't know whether our team picked a few pictures. You can bring them on, and we see some of the pictures when President Uhuru was receiving this and reading his document very well, in the presence of the Prime Minister, in the presence of the President and the Vice President, the President, the Vice President, and other dignitaries who were seated in the State House in today. Thank you very much. That's the document that His Excellency, the President of Republic of Kenya, is reading. That is the document that you can see that is a BBI. That's the team that finished its work, handed over. The journey today begins. I have seen some of the things in the document, very interesting. And earlier on, someone brought a fake document and it was returned. But then I've just looked at the same document. It's the same. So there are people, human beings here are confused. It is a total confusion. The post of a prime minister, the post of a leader of majority, the post of the leader of opposition, inclusivist what is it called?
Inclusivity.
Inclusivity, which is a very terrible word. I don't know whether it has come in.
But very important word, though.
Important inclusivity.
Yes, very good.
Very important word. It has if you lose an election and you have an office with PA and a full government, shadow minister of water, shadow minister, you also have shadow director of the minister of security who checks on Dr. Matiang. That's all right.
And we used to have that in our previous constitution, I think.
Yes.
Like the same way Britain has it as well.
Yes.
The shadow cabinet.
That is very, very good. That's very good. And so far, we are. I think those who are making noise, I can't see them on the wall anymore. The haters.
I think perhaps they're taking their time to
read. So tomorrow when it comes out, it is going to be put on engine. What are they called? Apps.
The search engines, yes.
Search engines, you can search and read. Sit down in a tree, sleep on Saturday, read. A time frame, the president will lay the time frame tomorrow. How long should people continue reading this report? Thank you very much. Miriam, tomorrow you will be in charge. Some of us will not be available.
No problem.
Because we shall be
part of that.
Part of a historical event that we want to see. A redemption strategy at last has arrived. And there are so many good changes. One of the changes is sack and disband Mr. Chebukati. Wow. Kwenda. So, Mr. Chebukati, those are recommendations that the parliament can do now. Disband. Those can begin quickly. And the other one could also be done through the parliamentary system. Very technically, without knocking on, but there is no way you can do without knocking. This one, you have to knock on the main entrenched article.
That is the referendum?
Yes.
That will require
a referendum, yes. Okay. Change of system.
He's talking in parables. I'm just trying to follow because I've not read that thing. So perhaps tomorrow I'll get an opportunity because it was just handed over. And I've been busy. I've not had a chance to look through social media. But, I'm trying to follow by faith.
So thank you very much. It is 8 minutes past 9 o'clock. Thank you very much, viewers. Wherever you are, God bless you. And for me, in the studio, Diplomatic Leaks rests. Until next Tuesday, is it 2nd or 3rd?
I'm not sure.
Next Tuesday, 3rd, the year of our Lord, we return. And maybe something would have happened. Mr. Riak would have flown home.
He better.
Yes. And maybe Mr. Faramijo would have accepted to withdraw the case in the ICJ. We never know. But the way things are going, he's digging in more. So thank you very much, viewers. Thank you. And I hand you over back to Miriam, who opened the session. Thank you.
You opened the session. Let me just read 2 comments from our viewers and then I'll just close down. Galdino Sebet, you're saying true. Allegiance to tribalism will tear South Sudan apart. Nationalism will indeed cement a strong sovereignty. And something here by Bismarck Bura. Thank you so much. He's saying member states of the United Nations are supposed to comply with the United Nations charters. A test of integrity of a nation is done when the international treaty is not complied with by member states. They therefore deserve condemnation. And thank you so much, all of you, for writing to us, Wako Patson, and all of you. And you're saying we talk about Cameroon. We will talk about Cameroon tomorrow. You can join me for the Good Morning Africa show. We have a lot. A lot has been happening in Cameroon, the larger Cameroon. Now even the young people are tired of Paul Biya, and also the latest from the Anglophone region. So Let's meet up tomorrow here, 11 a.m. East African time for the latest news across Africa and, of course, Kenya. So, but for now, thank you so much for your valued company, and thank you so much for engaging with us. From me, it is bye-bye for now.
Peace must be our goal and our guide. And all that we strive for as a human family, dignity and hope, progress and prosperity, depends on peace. But peace depends on us.